justice for all.
Welcome everyone. Present we have Tim Keeney, Selectmen, and Tim Patricus by telephone. Mike Marinacci, our Chief Financial Officer. Brian Wissinger, our Assistant Finance Director. Todd Boland, our Director of Public Works. Steve Jacobs, our Sanitarian. Carl Andolina, our Town Attorney. Bill Meyer from the Board of Finance. Andy Phillips, now just arrived, representing the Library Board, and Ralph Williams. First item on the agenda is the staffing and library director. Andy, you want to lead us through that?
Okay. As you know, we lost our director, Jessica. I'm sorry.
The microphone will be able to hear you better.
So we had our director, Jessica, resign in August. So I was charged to put together a search committee, which I did with input from the town. I had Todd on the team, some members of the Friends of the Library, and also some board of trustees members. We had a number of applicants. We were able to sort through them. We came down to we did some screening interviews, interviewed 2 candidates, and we have found one that we are very comfortable with. We had her introduced to the Board of Trustees, and they voted to recommend her for hire. So what we're looking for right now is the town to speak with her, do the negotiations as needed to get her on board. I know she has questions about insurance and salary, and that's out of our hands.
Right.
It was difficult finding candidates, so I hope that we can make this work with her. She's going to be a great asset to the library. I think she's going to be able to step in easily and work with the existing staff there. She's very easygoing, and I think she is going to be more public face for the library. I think she's really looking towards being out of her office and being in the library among the patrons. So we highly recommend her. She's going to be fantastic. I have her resumes here. I have 3 copies. In there, she has her application with the town with all of her information. It has her beginning salary where she was, her current salary, and then on our application we asked for desired salary. That's there. Knowing what our range is, in town, I hope we're close there so that we don't lose.
So we advertised a job at X, and she says she's making X plus whatever. Is she willing to take less?
Well, we have not.
You have discussed
we
this
have,
out. Okay.
Yeah, she knows what our range is.
Okay.
What was the range?
I think our range is 65 to 73 at the top end. My only thoughts on that are, we lost Jessica in August, so we do have, hoping that we have saved salary for the remainder of her time, for the remainder of the year. If that can possibly be, if needed, depending on how the negotiations go. And I think also maybe reevaluate the salaries in the future, because looking at some of the applicants that we were coming, hopefully we're not going to need another director for many years, but just to make sure that we're in line with what is kind of
I think the first step, Andy, would have her come in and interview with representatives here at Town Hall, myself and perhaps one of the other members of our directors, and then give you our opinion of that and find out where she is in terms of salary.
Right.
Commensurate with that, we can check and see what the competitive salary ranges are for like positions in other towns. And then we can come back to the board and ask for the recommendation. Now, it's been budgeted at $73,000 in our current budget. So it'll require, Mike, you can address
Well,
that.
it might not require anything if it falls within the same dollar range, if we have the money in that line item.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much is available. in there.
If it goes over it, because currently with Marie Stromwell acting as the interim director,
Yeah.
she was being paid a premium
Right.
in that role. So I'd say as long as it doesn't go over what was budgeted, then it would be fine. But
Yeah, since we're being asked tonight to approve her hiring,
No,
is
no,
that it?
we're not being asked to approve the hiring. I
What are
think
we being
he's
asked to
asking-
approve?
He's talking about the potential for salary.
Right.
And I'm recommending that she should come in here and interview us, and then we'll make that determination based upon analysis.
Is it on the agenda to authorize the?
No, it's library director of staffing, that's what mandates.
So I'm just offering that it's, you know, we've made our choice. We're just putting it forward to you. I know the only issue is that her current position is in Somerville, Mass. She lives in Long Meadow but has an apartment that way. So she comes home for the weekends. I'm just thinking how, you know, she does have her job there and it is a drive. So she'll arrange something. She'll work something out with you, I'm sure. So.
Well, what's the action that we're being asked to approve?
Well, I would recommend that he give us the resumes. We review the resumes. We schedule an appointment for her to come in first part of next week. We go through the interviewing process. If we're in agreement with the library board and the committee has recommended, then we can meet then with the board of selectmen and determine what that salary should be, provided we get the information from Brian as to what's available, if anything, in the budget. I don't know that off the top of my head.
Yeah, I was just surprised we didn't get more information than this half-page email.
Well, I had. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She'd been in contact with Kim, and Kim had been answering some of her questions. So we were kind of unsure about what the next step was, and then Kim said, come in and talk to the board of
Yeah,
selectmen.
in the past, we've interviewed Jessica Miller and other
Right.
previous library directors. That was not the case this time, so I would prefer to see that information and interview virtually.
Okay.
Then we can.
If I recall, the library board did interview Jessica before we did last time. We always have taken their recommendation,
Right.
so.
So can we schedule something fairly quickly then to have her come in here? Let's say Monday's a holiday, say Tuesday.
So her contact information
Okay.
is here.
Why don't you leave the resumes with us, Andy?
Okay.
And then
I've attached to it the her packet
Okay.
from the town application.
We'll directly interface with her at
yes,
this point.
we'll call her and I'll set up an interview with her.
Fantastic.
Okay? And if somebody from the board wants to be present at that interview, that's
No,
fine.
we're fine.
Okay.
So how would that work? I mean, the interview, subsequent negotiation.
That's right. I
Just
want to get some
curious.
information from Brian as to whether or not there's any funds available to close that gap between the requested salary and what we currently have in the budget. If not, then we have to go for an appropriation.
And,
So
it's
what
very-
is this negotiation that would be occurring, and how's that work?
Well, once Brian tells me specifically what we have left in the budget because of Jessica's departure, she left, 2 months ago? So what do you have, two months
Or
worth
we're
of
not going
salary?
to not hire her because there's not money there. I mean, there's ways
I
to
understand.
finance this.
He's asking for the procedure.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
Who's
we make a
gonna be
job
involved?
offer,
That's all.
we make her
How's that
job
work?
offer at a certain rate, and she accepts or does not initiate pending background check. And then we let them know everybody's
Right.
in on it, so.
So along with the job offer is also a benefits package. What's the cost of that? About
Yeah.
40% of the job
It's
salary?
the same benefit package everyone gets, and depending on how many
depending on the number of
dependents she puts on
and so
that,
forth, yep.
yeah. So she could be the
So
same.
what's the answer? Is it 40%, or what's the range?
It varies. I can't give you an exact number. If she has
If it's a family plan, it works out with full benefit package is about 62% of fringe benefit
That's pretty
rate.
high.
Yeah, fringe benefits are about 62% this year.
So what I'll do is I'll contact her immediately.
Great,
Either
thank you.
later tonight or tomorrow. We'll set up an interview for Monday. And,
Not
you know,
Monday, Tuesday.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Tuesday.
So does 62% also come into play then when you decide
Thanks.
No, 'cause
How
that
much you
part-
got in the budget?
Yeah, because that part's already been budgeted as well. So the cost of the benefits is the cost of the benefits. That was already budgeted. That doesn't change based on anything other than if she has a family plan, of married in one, or single would be the only cost difference in that.
Okay.
It's close.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
And I'll.
Thanks, Andy.
Can I get a copy of that?
Sure.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the Eagle Scout projects. Todd, you want to lead us through that?
Sure. Good evening. We have requests from 3 Eagle Scouts for 3 separate projects.
These are Eagle Scout candidates. is that what
Candidates,
they are?
yes.
Yeah.
They're not Eagle Scouts yet.
Is he not an accountant?
No. I believe you gentlemen
Wishful
haven't
thinking.
received all of the information, but the first one is to install 3 benches up at around Herds Lake at Camp Iapo. 2 benches by the main beach, and 1 bench by where the old boathouse used to be, which is a secondary beach. These would be used for just sitting and enjoying the lake. The construction is permanent. They would be in concrete, and they would be metal with vinyl coating, similar to what we would use in a municipal setting. This was requested by Colin Carrillo. He did a presentation to Open Space and Trails. Open Space and Trails voted unanimously to forward it to the Board of Selectmen for consideration. They're in favor of it. Public Works and Recreation has looked at it, and we're in favor of this as well. We think it's a great project and would be used by many people. I don't know, do you want me to go through all 3 of them, or you want to go on to
Are there any funding needs related to that?
The Eagle Scout takes that on all of themselves.
So they
That's
can
part
raise
of their
money. I saw
project.
that, yeah.
Yeah, they
What
do.
about maintenance? Is there any?
Maintenance will be borne by DPW. We'll even help with things like digging the holes if they need it. Sometimes, it depends on if the Eagle Scout gets a lot of help, they'll dig them themselves. If not, we'll go up with our power augers, and it takes us a minute to do it. It's really nothing, but maintenance, they all be, go ahead.
Todd, do you prefer taking these one at a time or all 3 at once?
Probably easier one at a time.
Yeah, we should probably do them one at a time, that way it's clear.
Yeah. For the purpose of discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve the Eagle Scout project requesting of the benches at Herd Lake.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Additional discussion. Tim.
I've gone through the package. It looks pretty sound to me. Yeah, these footings
I
are going to
agree.
be in cement. Is
Yep.
that- yeah.
Concrete in the ground.
Yep.
Looks like a great project.
It's amazing to me how much paperwork they put the kids through. And this isn't even the big one. The next one's at 32 pages.
Yeah, except for the last candidate.
Well, the last one, no, that one.
Picture.
Well, that's an interesting one.
We'll wait for that.
Any additional discussion, Tim and Tim? On the first
None
item?
for me. I'm good.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Second project, Todd.
Okay, the second project is from Andrew Violette. He is proposing to construct a kiosk at the park, which would be next to the upper parking lot. This kiosk would be very similar to the Eagle Scout project kiosk that was constructed at Camp Iapo. We envision it with having a large map of the park, including all the fields numbered, as well as the running track that goes around the outside of the park, and then it'll have more space on the right side for community bulletins and what have you. That'll be under the direct control of the Parks Department and maintenance of the Parks Department. Similar idea, depending on how his funding goes and how many people are involved, they might dig the holes. It would need 2 holes, or we'll do it if they can't get enough people. And then we would maintain it afterwards. He's the one that did the 32-page request. We met with him, Maureen, the Parks Foreman Bruce and I met with him and his father at the site. And we're in favor of this project. We think it'd be great for the town and also good for the park, so it has a little more exposure, because a lot of people don't know where everything is. And this would also
Yeah,
be
for the
fully
purposes
funded.
of discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve the kiosk Eagle Scout project as proposed.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Additional discussion, input.
So, Todd, the only question I have is, these things are always subject to vandalism like any other structure in town.
Yep.
Is there some way we could, I don't know, get a plaque made or something that says, hands off, this was done by Eagle Scouts. Can you bother something else?
Vandalize, that's something different.
I
We
know,
could put a
but,
signage
but,
on
you
it,
know,
We could
right?
put
Eagle Scout
signage on
project.
it. I mean, things like at IAPO, though.
Just brand it as an Eagle Scout project because,
Maybe.
these kids put a ton of work into the project,
Oh, yeah.
into the proposals.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hard work, and I hate to see it. I hate to see that contribution diminished by people who may not even know that it was a kid that did the project. So if there's some way that we could just brand it as an Eagle Scout project, I'd love to
That's a great
see if
point.
that helps at all. It may not, but I'd love to see it. Maybe.
That's a good idea. Yeah, we can do that, and hope for the best.
Or put an electrical fence around it, something
Yeah.
tries to tear it.
Well, unfortunately, the kiosk at IAPO was they used plexiglass as the glass, and it was vandalized
Right.
not that long
Yep, I
after.
remember
We
that.
changed it to Lexan, and that holds up a lot better. IAPO's a
Yep.
special case because it is so far out, and it's pretty remote. The stuff at the park, I
It is,
don't.
but I think even the skating rink when it's been in the park has been vandalized.
Yeah.
You just think people would appreciate that the town's trying to do nice things and leave their hands off it, but that's not the case. So I'm just
Unfortunately.
wondering if there's a way to brand it as a little different than just municipal expense. This is a kid's idea and an Eagle Scout project that might help preserve it a little is all.
Right, no, good idea. Yeah, we can do that.
I'm just curious on the chart that you handed out, this one here with
That's the next one.
the lines on it. That's the next one.
Yeah. We'll add some
Andy's got a.
I work with the scouts as well. Part of their project is typically the boys, when they're completed, they
Do a plaque, yeah.
They'll say their name and Eagle Scout.
Typically, yeah, not always, but yeah. Typically, that is a good point. Andy has a good point. That typically they'll put a plaque on their project
That would be helpful.
as a scout project.
Great.
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Second project?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Last one.
Okay, the last one is a Gaga pit, which when Maureen mentioned it to me, I thought she was messing with me at first, but this is a real thing. This is a for lack of a better term, a ball pit that smaller kids use. It's got sides, and they get in it, and if you get hit with the ball, you're out. So it's kind of
Below
like
the knee.
below the knee.
Dodgeball.
So it's kind of like dodgeball, but it's very low key dodgeball, and apparently it is almost on the scale of how well received pickleball is nowadays. It's all the rage. And Ben Fawthorpe would like to install a Gaga pit at the park. Now we've been back and forth with Scott Sutter, who runs the running course at the park, and that's what all these lines are that you see,
What I
the
thought.
different colors. And we were looking at trying to come up with somewhere to put it. And we think the best part is what I had circled and said here, which is at the end of the pavilion, because it's if you're a parent with small kids, and your kids might want to go to Connor's place in the summer, we'll have the splash pad open right there, but you'll be able to be at the pavilion and actually see. You can keep a good eye on them if they're in the Gaga pit, the splash pad, or Connor's place. We looked at putting it down by the volleyball courts, but that is out of sight, and it's also very wet typically. So that wasn't a good placement. Anywhere else around Connor's place is kind of in the way of the runners, which we wanted to avoid. The only caveat with this project is where we're proposing he puts it is where the drainage system is going to go for the splash pad, so he will have to wait until we get the drainage system in, which should be in the next 4 weeks or so. He'll be able to do it probably in November or in the spring.
Any overall concerns, Todd, on this project, or is it?
No, it's similar. We'll maintain it once it's in. Same thing with all of these scout projects. They put them in and then they're done, and we maintain them. This one, I'm not sure about the longevity of it. We'll have to see how it goes. I don't know anything about Gaga pits other than what I've learned for this, and we'll see how well it's received. The other ones are really permanent. This one may or may not be. That would be my only concern is in 5 years, if it's not used a lot, we may take it down. That would be the only concern.
I think these are pretty easy to move around.
Yes, yeah, they're far more.
Is there a gate on it? I'm just curious.
There's an in and out.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
yes, you don't have to
they'll
they
stop,
jump in
step
and,
over.
well, they have a little, they leave one area that's a little bit
A
lower,
little
so
lower,
the kids can
right,
step
it's-
over it,
yeah.
yeah.
I have a grandson I saw play this. It was
Oh.
pretty interesting.
Kind of
Kids
wild,
love it.
yeah, they love
It's a
it.
great time. They make up their own rules as they go along.
And
Below
what
the
is the
knee.
potential? What's the potential of the balls leaving the pit, and never finding their way back? So they're scattered around the park. They're an obstacle for the mowers. We end up a year down the road with a pit with no
that
balls.
doesn't
Is
happen.
that
No, because it's when you're going to have a game, you get the equipment. It's kind of like with pickleball. The town provides the equipment. You have to sign it out, and then you bring it back to the rec department. It'd be the same idea here. You sign it out. You're having a game or what? It's not something that's there all the time. The equipment.
Oh,
is.
perfect. I've never seen it, so I'm this is new to me. So got
I'd
it.
like to make a
Thanks.
motion that we approve the Eagle Scout project presented by Ben Fothrop
Fothrop, yeah.
for Gaga Pit at Field Road Park.
I'll second that.
Okay, any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
This will
you.
be very popular, I guarantee you.
Thanks, Todd.
All of these things are.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks
Very
for
well
reading.
received.
I've never heard of a Gaga pit. Something
Yeah.
They come with the lady?
That's what I said. Is it a mosh pit for a Lady Gaga fan?
Line.
We should give
That would be good if it did.
give Ben Fothrop an award for using the least amount of paper on his application.
Save a couple trees, that's right.
Good idea.
Let's jump ahead to the proposed ordinance before we talk about setting the town meeting. So, Mike, you want to lead us through that?
Sure. The finance department made a proposal and had a discussion at the last Board of Finance meeting, and expressing that when there's really no accurate way to budget for separation payouts. What invariably happens is you either budget too low. If you try to budget too high, that usually gets cut back during budget time. And so that number never really reflects what happens. The uncertainty of all that is you can get hit by a tsunami, which is essentially what is happening right now. We have two 30-plus year employees along with other separations combined over $140,000 for this year. And having talked to our audit partner and having talked to our actuary in terms of trying to levelize the fluctuation and minimize the risk, they've suggested that we come up with a separation benefits fund. We proposed that to the Board of Finance. They agreed to establish that fund. They voted to establish it, so that exists on the books. But we want one further than that, is that having discussions with our auditors said that you really want to restrict the use of the fund itself, and in order to do that, you should come up with an ordinance which would define, how do you contribute to the fund, how do you use the money from the fund, how do you administer the fund. So that's what we want to do. The fund exists right now. The fund just doesn't have any guidance for use or usage, and that guidance would be provided by the ordinance. And the ordinance needs to be approved by the Selectmen, adopted and approved by the Selectmen. So this was sent out to the town attorney, Carl. He asked if we could send it to the other attorney, Pat McHale. I haven't heard back from either one of you. So.
Yeah, for the record, Carl Andolina, I reviewed it. I don't have a problem with it. I am waiting to speak to Patrick McHale. We missed each other yesterday. I'll call him in the morning. But I can't imagine that he'll have any issues with it.
Yeah, I think the wording is pretty tight. I think it looks pretty good. I just didn't want to make a move on it without
Right.
some legal blessing.
Sure.
So, Mike, basically, it's an accrual fund, but it's got restrictions and real cash in it, right?
Yeah, so we have an unfunded liability here that's going to hit us, and
Yep.
what normally we would do is we're going to take the money out of the general fund and pay for it. Talking
Yep.
to the actuary, once we establish this fund, we would fund it on an annual basis based on the actuarial profile of the group that is in town. So the age, the number of years of service, et cetera. And then we would be given a number by the actuary to fund this account on an annual basis. So we would get an amount. Ultimately, it becomes self-funding, so that in future, your future liabilities would be probably totally funded. So it's the way to go here to avoid what we're encountering right now. So.
Makes a lot of
Yeah, and
sense
then
to me.
when we need to satisfy a retirement obligation, we relieve that fund of that dollar. Right.
Right.
Yes.
If I could ask a
Perfect.
question, is there any chance that it wouldn't be used in the first 3 years of its inception?
Well, right now it's what we would want to do right now is to take the next item here is the town meeting for the separation payout, and we would like to funnel that fund immediately, put it into this fund.
Right.
So then it would be used, but it's not going to really have any interest
Accrue.
bearing because there's no time to accrue anything.
Right,
Yes.
no, I'm saying
But-
is in other words, how often do you have folks separate from town employment?
Well, there's a second wave coming within maybe 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
And so the actuary will look at that and most likely front load it
Mhm.
because he'll say that it's high risk. You have 3 people, let's say, that are age 68 or over or whatever. And so we'll we'll probably have to fund for that eventuality.
Mhm.
But after that, and there is quite a drop off in our population of employees. I would think that the fund itself would then, on an annual basis, not require that much of a contribution as long as it's making money in its investment side. So
So it's sort of an offshoot of like a
it's
benefits pension.
it's that. It's a reserve. It's
Yeah.
the closest thing I can think of is that we know, for example, we're going to have a reval and it's going to cost us X. So over a 3-year period, we fund it so we don't get hit with it all at
Right.
one time.
Mhm.
It's a similar thing.
Okay.
So we just want rules around it. We don't want anybody raiding it, and so because it is
So,
related to employment, it should have.
Mike, do you or Carl or Pat know, is there a fiduciary obligation that goes along with a fund like this, or is there not?
I think there's a fiduciary obligation for every fund, and I, as town treasurer, would have that obligation for every fund that's under my purview.
So I didn't see that in the ordinance that you would be the named fiduciary, and I think that's
It says at the bottom, I'm serving as custodian, chief financial officer shall exercise control and administration of the benefits fund in accordance with the duties under the town charter. So,
but it doesn't say, but it does not say fiduciary, and I guess that's where I'd like the legal opinion before we even move this to a town meeting. That if there is a real fiduciary obligation, that should be spelled out as to who's holding that. As the board of selectmen, as the chief financial officer, as the board of finance. I'm unclear.
I'll talk to Patrick about that.
And it should probably be more than one person. There should be a committee, just so that we've got
It's just a
checks and
fund.
balances on a fund that could be rather significant to the town.
I'm not sure we need a committee, Tim. It's just a fund that we're reserving for, and we're going to be getting recommendations from our actuary to how to fund it, and it's going to be audited by our auditors. So
Well, I
I'm
understand
not
that,
sure.
but if there's a fiduciary obligation by IRS standards, then I don't think you want that on one person. I think you'd want a couple of people.
I don't think there's
Sure.
an IRS. Well, I will defer to the attorneys. I don't believe that there's an IRS implication here.
Okay.
Well, it's between Patrick and I, we'll figure that out.
Yep, that's all I'd like to know is if there is or is not.
Mhm.
I also note what is particularly impressive here is that you've basically fenced the fund so it can't be used to
Yeah.
offset the general fund.
Right.
Okay, so we'll defer the setting of the time.
So you want
meeting
to table
till we
this
get-
until the next
yeah,
meeting?
Till we get a confirmation from Pat McNeil and Carl. All right, thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Next item, we have Carl Andalina and Steve Jacobs here.
You gotta go back. You got to go back to the separation
You
payout.
skipped the set
Oh, I
town meeting date.
apologize.
Yep.
Time, separation payout, go ahead.
Yeah, so the Board of Finance approved the request for separation payouts at their last meeting. But because by charter it's over $20,000, so a town meeting has to be held. So they recommended that the Board of Selectmen set that town meeting date. You have a meeting on October 21st, so you could do it before your regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting if you so chose to. But you'd have to make the motion so that we can get the legal notice in the paper next week.
So if that were the case, what time would it be if it were before
Prior to the
the
meeting.
town
I would say that the town meeting would start at 6, and then the selectmen meeting would start immediately following it. I don't anticipate it being a very long town meeting, but you never know.
Is that date okay with both you gentlemen?
October 21st, you said?
Yeah. At 6 o'clock. Tim, is that all right with you?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion then that we set the town meeting date to approve the separation benefits payout for 6 o'clock October 21st, followed by a selectmen's meeting.
I'll second that.
Additional discussion? Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
We'll go ahead and set that up then with the notification in the paper.
Yep.
Okay. All right, the next item is the WPCA decolonization process. Steve, you want to give us an overview first before we get
So,
started?
It'd be
can
helpful
I
to
see
have
the
Carl at
agenda
the table.
for a second?
Sure.
Can I see how it's on?
What do you need?
Just the agenda.
No.
Right here.
So I would suggest that you add an item to the agenda and that we go into an executive session to discuss this matter because there are portions of it which are sensitive in nature and I don't believe they should be discussed in an open session.
Okay.
So that'll require a 3/4 vote to do that, and then we can move into executive session and discuss it. And you would decide who would, actually Steve and I, and maybe Mike, and I don't know, Bill's from the Board of Finance, if you want to invite him as well, that'd be entirely up to you,
Okay.
Mr. Selectman.
Make a motion to go to an executive session?
We'll add
Yeah,
add
make a
the
motion
item
to
to the
add the
agenda
item
first.
first.
Yeah. Make a motion to add the agenda to the WPCA decolonization process to go into executive session.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we should have Steve.
All right, so now you
Bud, can you please make sure I'm marked down as opposed?
you're opposed.
You're
Tim?
opposed to an executive session?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I got you down, Tim.
Thank you.
So now you have to make a motion to go in and name everybody you want in.
Okay, I make a
The
motion to go into
executive
executive session at 6:35.
You're going to do the authorization payments later?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You don't want to do payments first?
No, let's get this resolved. We should have Steve, Mike, Brian,
Steve,
Carl,
Mike,
Bill Meyer wants to be involved, Todd,
Carl.
no. So Ralph and Todd would excuse you.
Can you hold on a
Steve,
second?
Mike, Brian, Carl,
We just-
Tim,
Thanks, Todd.
Bill,
Evening.
Meyer. All right, so I got the motion. I need a second on it.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
All right,
Before we have any
hold on one
discussion,
second.
I gotta read something.
Yeah, and I've got to disconnect microphones and pause the
You've
recording.
also got to mark me down as opposed, Brian, before we go off public.
We're taken.
Make sure the time is recorded there too, 7:17.
7:17.
7:17. The last item on the agenda is authorization of scheduled payments.
Make a motion that we approve payments in the amount of Lost my number. Hang on a second.
$255,814.
Brian, 257.
I got
255 right there.
117.56, right?
255.
814, 58, 59.
Oh, that must be the revised one. Sorry.
Give it to me again,
Get
Brian.
one version or
$255,814.59.
They got, because we had sent the one out and then we had the issue.
We had an issue where we canceled the check after the first one of these was created, and so
Any
he came up
additional
with a second
discussion in
version.
terms of whatever second?
So, let's just be clear on which one we're
The one that's
approving.
lower,
'Cause
The amount is 257, 117.56.
I already had it here.
Great. I thought somebody said 255 earlier.
That's
I'm on the same
what
page. Thank you.
I was given on the 6th of or this morning, dated October
One.
6th.
One came out later at 11:26.
Yeah, there was a second one that went out and it had. Does that one have the credit card payments at the bottom, Tim?
No.
no,
That's
so
the
there, it
difference.
was missing the credit
It
card.
was missing the
payment.
credit card payments.
Yeah. All right.
Makes
We had to go-
sense.
Again,
Ready to go back.
257, 117.56.
17.56 is the amount.
Yeah, thanks for adding the credit card payments, Brian. I appreciate that.
Yep.
The only question I had was
I
the
need a
one
second
for
on
the.
We need a second.
Second.
All right. This discussion. Tim.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a question on the one. There was one line item for $12,000 big on the third page for total security. Might be fourth page.
Yep. Selectman Keeney actually asked me the same question. A part of that is our annual license for the fire alarms for all the town buildings. And the other portion is the capital project that was approved back in January or February, whenever it was, to actually switch all of the fire alarms from the copper lines to the cellular when TN Dispatch went out of the business of fire alarms.
And are those encumbrances on this fiscal year then, or on the prior one?
Prior.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any additional questions?
I've already asked all my questions and got them answered by Brian.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'll sign that thing. Pass that down, Mike. Thanks.
Sure.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Brian, you have a second?
Give me a minute. What's that?
Send me the payments thing when you put it on the